No one believed Sweden could pull this off. Not against the giants of the sky. Not against the trillion-dollar machines that dominated every air exercise for decades. But this week, the impossible happened. And America can't believe what Sweden's Gripen just did. For years, the global stage was ruled by superpowers. The United States had its stealthy F-35s, flying computers worth over $80 million each. Russia showcased its Su-57, a beast built for intimidation. And China? It was racing to flood the skies with its J-20 stealth fighters. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of northern Europe, Sweden was building something no one took seriously: the Gripen. A lightweight jet designed not for dominance but for survival. It didn't need billion-dollar hangars. It didn't need armies of engineers. It needed just one road, a laptop, and a few mechanics, and it was ready to fly again. Critics laughed. They called it a cheap alternative, a budget jet, a toy compared to the F-35. But Sweden didn't want a toy. They wanted a fighter that could defend their skies against anyone. And now, it just proved that sometimes brains beat budgets. The story begins in the Cold War's shadow. While the US and USSR poured billions into massive aircraft programs, Sweden faced a different reality: a small population, a limited budget, and a neighbor, the Soviet Union, that loomed like a storm across the Baltic Sea. So instead of building a giant, Sweden built a survivor. The Saab Gripen, a multi-role jet that could take off from highways, refuel in minutes, and get back into the fight before enemy satellites even spotted it. For decades, it was the quiet professional, respected but never feared. Then came the Gripen E, the evolution nobody saw coming. This wasn't just a small jet anymore. It was a digital predator. In late 2023 and early 2024, NATO training exercises began revealing something unexpected. When Gripen S participated alongside advanced Western fighters, they didn't just keep up, they outthought them. Reports from pilots told a strange story. In mock dogfights, Gripens were locking onto targets before the F-35s could even register their presence. How? Because the Gripen E wasn't designed to hide. It was designed to outsmart. Its radar and electronic warfare systems acted like a hacker in the sky, jamming, tricking, and confusing opponents before they could even respond. Think of it like a chess player who knows every move before the other side touches a piece. One NATO officer reportedly called it a ghost with teeth. Another said, "It's not stealthy, it's smarter than stealth." Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, America was watching. The US had spent years refining its F-35 program, promising total air superiority. But even inside NATO, allies were starting to question the cost. Every F-35 hour of flight cost tens of thousands of dollars. Every upgrade, a small fortune. Then came Sweden, offering the Gripen E at less than half the price, with maintenance costs so low it almost felt like a prank. While others were building gold-plated Eagles, Sweden had released a Falcon that could hunt all day without needing to land. And countries noticed. Canada was the first big test. When Ottawa launched its search for a new fighter, few believed Sweden had a chance. Against the political pressure, the US lobbying, and the promise of stealth, what could a small Swedish jet possibly offer? But when Canadian defense experts tested the Gripen's flexibility, its low cost, and its ability to operate in harsh Arctic conditions, jaws dropped. Gripen could land on icy roads, refuel in minutes, and take off again. No expensive base required. It was exactly what Canada's vast frozen wilderness demanded. And though politics ultimately tilted the deal toward the F-35, the world noticed the debate. Sweden had just stood toe-to-toe with America's best-selling fighter, and almost won. Then came the moment that changed everything. A NATO air exercise, deep in Europe. The Gripen ES were up against a mix of advanced Western jets, including Typhoons and F-35s. When the exercise ended, whispers spread through the ranks. Gripen's kill ratios were stunning. Its sensors and electronic countermeasures had not only survived, they had dominated. In some simulations, Gripen pilots could blind enemy radar, jam missile locks, and even feed false data into adversary systems. That meant enemy pilots were chasing ghosts, while the real Gripen quietly circled behind them. For NATO tacticians, it was a wake-up call. For the US, it was a shock. And for Sweden, it was vindication. This wasn't an accident. Gripen's design philosophy had always been about independence. Sweden knew that in a real war, bases could be destroyed in hours. So, they built a fighter that didn't need them. Every part of the Gripen is built for resilience. It can operate from a 500-meter stretch of road. It can be serviced by 5 ground crew in less than 10 minutes. And its advanced data link allows it to share radar information between aircraft instantly, faster than even some NATO systems. While the F-35 depends on a vast digital network and American infrastructure, the Gripen E thrives on self-reliance. It's the difference between a luxury car and an off-road beast. One needs perfect roads, the other makes its own path. And here's the irony. While superpowers fight to control the skies with stealth and speed, Sweden's approach is far more disruptive. Gripen doesn't try to hide, it plays with your radar. It doesn't overpower, it outthinks. It's the military version of asymmetric warfare, but in the air. Every sensor, every electronic pulse, every radar reflection, Gripen turns them into tools of deception. That's why pilots say flying it feels less like piloting a machine and more like commanding a digital trickster. And now, nations are paying attention. Brazil already operates the Gripen E, calling it the Air Force of the future. Finland studied it seriously before choosing the F-35, and still admits Gripen was one of the best designs they'd ever tested. Even India, long tied to Russian platforms, is quietly exploring the idea of a lighter, more affordable multi-role fighter. Something that looks a lot like the Swedish model. So, what exactly did the Gripen just do that America can't believe? It proved that the era of billion-dollar dominance may be ending. In exercises and evaluations, this small Nordic jet showed that flexibility, intelligence, and electronic warfare can rival stealth and raw power. It made nations question whether defense should be about quantity or quality, about having the most or using the smartest. And most importantly, it shattered the myth that small countries can't innovate at the same level as superpowers. Because when the Gripen E turned invisible, not by shape, but by deception, it didn't just fool radars. It fooled an entire generation of assumptions about air warfare. Today, as Sweden officially joins NATO, that symbolism runs deep. This once neutral nation now brings to the alliance not just technology, but a philosophy. Adaptability over arrogance, ingenuity over intimidation. And somewhere in a Pentagon briefing room, analysts are re-watching those exercise tapes, trying to understand how a jet half the price, half the size, and with a fraction of the publicity just outmaneuvered the world's most advanced fighter. The answer is simple. Sweden never set out to build the biggest jet. They built the smartest. And in a sky full of giants, it was the smallest that made history.